Okay, so let's have a look around in the Azure portal to get a good look and a feel of what the Oracle Database at Azure service provides. So once the service has been enabled, I can just search for Oracle and I will see the Oracle Database at Azure service there. Once I click on that, I get to the environment where I can select the relevant database service that I want to choose. So I have a choice of autonomous database, EXA on dedicated, EXA on EXA scale, and then the base DB service. If I want to create an autonomous database, for example, just to give you a preview, I can go and hit create here, select my subscription and my resource group, give it a name and a region, and let's put this in UK South. And I hit next. Then it's just a configuration, one page of configuration of the database, only like 4 or 5 different things to choose from. First of all, the workload type. In this case, I'm going to go for transaction processing, the database version and size. So I'm going to go for 23 AI. I'm going to go for the minimum 2 eCPU count, but of course I can flexibly move that to anything. And I have the auto scaling, which means that when enabled, the database can scale up to 3 times the baseline amount when it's needed. For this demo, I'm just going to use 2, but with auto scaling just in case. And then storage 1 terabyte starting size, and also with auto scaling so that it can grow when required. Backup retention of 60 days is good for me, and I need to provide a admin password. Typing the same thing twice here is possibly the hardest thing on this page. Then the license type, BURL or license included, and under advanced options is just the selection of the character set, where obviously AL32 UTF-8 is always the advised character set unless you have a very specific reason to have another one. Then under networking, I have 3 options. I can have a public database. That's not often used for obvious reasons. Then I can still have semi-public but with an allowed IP list. So if you want to do that, then great. But what most people do is select just a private IP only. If you select that, then you can select your VNet that you want to place this in. If I select my VNet here, and then a subnet in that VNet. Now with Oracle Database at Azure, subnets have to be delegated to the OData service. And you can only have 1 subnet per VNet that is delegated to this service. And this subnet selection box automatically shows you if there is a delegated subnet, it shows you that delegated subnet. So this is my only choice at this moment. Then under maintenance, I have my patch level, regular is fine, and then under consent, I agree to the terms. If I want to do tagging, I can do it here. For this demo, I won't. And then under review and create, I can review this and hit create button to go and create a database. And the deployment is submitted, so we just see whether this loads, and off we go. Let's come back in a few minutes and see what the situation is. Okay, so it's a few minutes later and the deployment is now complete. The database has been created. So let's go and have a look at it. I can have a look at the resource group in this way, but my preferred way is to simply select the service, go and have a look at autonomous database, and then filter and select my database, which we called demo ATP. When that is loaded, I can then see all of the details of this database. I can see the resource group and the location and the subscription that it is in. I can see the various things like the names and the license type, etc. Scroll down, I have the CPU count and whether scaling is set up. I can see my disaster recovery setup, which is out of the box. We will have a look at other options in a minute. And then scrolling back up and to the right, we have the backup settings. As I said, when I created the database, 60 days automatic backup retention. And there hasn't been a backup yet because this database is literally just being created, of course. And my network and my subnet that I selected, and I get an IP address and a URL. So all of that comes as this. I can stop and start the database from here. I can have a look at cloning, etc. So first of all, let's just have a look at a few things. Let's have a look at connections first. If I click on connections, I can see the various names and the connect strings that are created for this. So these I can use. This is the same as Autonomous Database in OCI. So everything that you know about Autonomous Database in OCI still applies here. Same connect strings. And you can use these connect strings to connect to the database in the various ways. Under resource allocation, if I want to manage that, I can change the amount of eCPUs. I can switch off auto-scaling if I wanted to. Then if I have a look at disaster recovery, again, we have the same choices as with Autonomous Database on OCI. This is an OCI service. It's just provided to you inside Azure, natively connected to the rest of the Azure network, placed in a VNet with this Azure look and feel, but it is still everything that you know about Autonomous Database. If you know anything about Autonomous Database in OCI, it's still true here. So disaster recovery by default is based on a backup-based DR type in the same region in the other availability zone. This would then be provided. But what I can add is another disaster recovery setup, and I can put that in a different region. So for example, I want to place this in UK West. I still have my resource group that I want to put that in, and I give this a new name. And now I might want to choose Autonomous Data Guard. So the difference between backup-based and Autonomous Data Guard is that with Autonomous Data Guard, I have my instance ready to take over as soon as a failure happens in the primary. With backup-based, all of the backup pieces are there. The backup is there in the remote location, ready to provision a new instance at the moment that it is required. So that obviously will have an impact on the amount of time that it takes to fill over, because in the one case it can be done immediately. In the other case, it has to build the database from the backup first. But you choose what you like, weighing up the requirements versus the cost. So in this case, I'm going to choose the Autonomous Data Guard, and there again I choose my VNet that is already that I created earlier in UK West, and the subnet therein. If I hit next, then it's just going to run the final validations, and I can hit create there. For now, I'm not going to do that, because otherwise it would just be sitting there. So going back to the overview, we have everything here that we need to we have most of the things here that we need, but not everything. So for some of the things we might have to go to OCI. So I have a nice button here, which is the Go to OCI button, and if I click that, thrown over to the OCI console, where I have to log on. And after I've logged on, I see the exact same setup, the exact same database, just the OCI view database. Remember, this is a multi-cloud service, but that means there is one instance, but it's available both in Azure and in OCI. It's a bit of OCI running inside Azure. So there is an Azure view of that database. There is also an OCI view of that database. This is not a copy of the database or anything like that. This is simply the OCI view of this database. So I can see the same things as I saw earlier. I can see the name, the workload type. I can see the backup retention periods of 60 days that I selected. I can see the disaster recovery. Just remember that I hadn't enabled the cross region that I just showed you, and I can see all the different settings. Again, network setting, IP address. So here with the OCI tooling, there are a few more things that might not be possible in the Azure tooling, such as the setup of key management, etc. So there are certain considerations when you might want to have to go to OCI rather than Azure. So let's have a look at that with the type of things that you would have to use which tooling for. And here we go. So here we have an overview. The middle column, so the blue column, are the things that you would do through the Azure portal or the Azure tooling, of course, including all the command line options. And the rightmost column, the red column, is stuff that you have to do through the OCI Console or the OCI tooling. So, for example, the setup of Autonomous Data Guard that I just showed you, you do that through the Azure tooling. You don't do that through the OCI tooling. But the looking up of connection strings, you can do that on both sides. Some of the stuff at the bottom, you set the admin password, you set up auto scaling and that sort of stuff through the Azure portal. But you can also afterwards, after provisioning, you can also do that in OCI. So there are a few things that you need the OCI console for, but a lot of the stuff you can do out of Azure. Okay, so with that, let's get out of OCI and back to our Azure view. So we can now, if we wanted to, we could have a application that is in a network, either in the same network as this database, or in a network that is paired, or through hub and spoke, or whatever method that you have to connect to the network that the database is in, and you can simply connect to this database using the connect strings, and off we go.